If you haven't heard of Max The Unifox, it's a paper 3D platformer adventure game that I've been following. It's a very interesting project made by a very interesting and undoubtedly talented artist and developer, Derus. I've had the pleasure of asking Derus about his life, his work, what inspires him, among other things in a Q&A. You can find his game and content in the description below. I highly recommend you take a look at his 31 alpha version of Max The Unifox. Otherwise, let's get on to the Q&A. How did you get started with game development, and what skills, hobbies, or interests helped you start? Well, the story will be quite long, but that makes it more interesting, don't you agree? I've never considered myself a very skilled person. My older brother was always cooler in everything, despite the fact that he practically did not make an effort. But maybe it's because of my brother that I've always worked hard to beat him in every way. In general, my whole family is creative people. One grandfather on my father's side was a jeweler. Another grandfather on my mother's side restored palaces in the Crimea, and my grandmother painted portraits in oil. This love for creativity also passed to my mother. She sews clothes very well, cooks and draws. So it makes no sense to think about where interest in creativity comes from in our family, and everything is clear. But musical abilities are still attached to all this creativity. It all started when, around the second grade of school, parents decided to take me to additional music classes. However, after 5 years of playing the flute, I realized that music is not really my thing. And despite the fact that I still really love calm and harmonious music in the style of ambient rock and post-rock, I'm very bad at creating music. In general, I dropped out of music school and asked my parents to enroll me in art school. There is one big problem in Russian art schools though. Children are taught only academic drawing, that is, you only draw mugs, rags, and jugs all the time. It always embarrassed me, so I spent almost all my free time on self-study. And perhaps most of all, cartoons and anime helped me. Oh, you have no idea how much I just watched. There are probably more than 500 different titles behind my back, and after each of that I tried to make sketches. This is how my creative path began, with a rejection of everything that was taught in art school and self-education thanks to Sonic, Adventure Time, Sword Art Online, and Gurren Lagann. Of course, at the same time I really liked to play video games. I especially loved Sonic Adventure and Shrek 2 Team Action. After 2 years of daily drawing, I had about 3 to 4 sketchbooks, and by the end of the school there were about 15. Thanks to these sketches, my drawing style gradually formed and then changed dozens of times over and over again. At the same time, I decided to start a YouTube channel. I, like all of the children at the time, filmed all sorts of nonsense, from which I myself am ashamed, but this helped me gather at least some kind of audience, although the real fans were around 3 to 4 people. When I realized that my videos didn't make any sense, I decided to just start drawing. I turned on the broadcast for 3 to 4 hours and just drew. That's when I realized this is the thing that I really love. It was around that time that I came up with the Fox. There were a lot of ideas, so I started with the usual drawing of a variety of characters. People, animals. I love the character design with all my heart. Then ideas began to come to me about creating stickers, then comics, then animations. While broadcasting on YouTube, I tried to do literally everything that could be done. As a result, I have 2 short comics of 25 pages and a bunch of small cartoons. Their plot was already somewhere near Max The Unifox, but not as perfect as I wanted. Then I changed it 5 more times. Around the same time, I was already finishing school, and in the last year at the computer science lesson, in Russia this is a lesson where children are taught to sit at a computer, we were shown a program called Scratch. To be honest, game development has always repulsed me with the need to learn a programming language, and I still can't understand how people write it. It's too difficult for me, but when I saw the possibility of visual programming in Scratch, I just cried. I never thought that people would think of making coding accessible to everyone, and then my idea of creativity cardinally changed. I sat for days on end in Scratch and learned how to make games. And when I showed my game at school, my computer science teacher said that he gave me an A+ mark for the whole year, and now I can do absolutely everything I wanted in his lessons, because I exceeded his expectations. In short, while the whole class was studying, I sat next to the laptop and drew the Mona Lisa in paint. After I graduated from high school, things changed a little. I'm confused. I wanted everything at once, but as we say, if you chase 2 hares, you won't catch a single one. And here in Russia, if you don't go to college, then you go into the army. And what do you think happened? Yes, I joined the army for a year. And the reason for that was because I didn't get into art school 3 times. I still don't understand why. But before that, I managed to work for about 2 months in an animation studio and even drew a couple of episodes of the children's cartoon Baby Bears. It was a very cool experience. In general, a whole year in the army was hard in life, but thanks to the difficulties, we are growing. I drew and never stopped. I've painted in the trenches, at the shooting ranges, in the barracks, the toilet at night. I've always been drawing. When the commanders found out that I can draw portraits, they gave me a position of secretary so that I could work for them and draw portraits of their wives for them. Thanks to this, I was able to sit at the computer and learn 3D modeling in Blender right in the army. I think this is a real blessing from God, otherwise I can't call it anything else. After returning from the army, I realized that I wanted to be closer to God, and I began to go to church more often and serve there. Oddly enough, I still continued to broadcast, but now in the church. I've always had the feeling that God was leading me by the hand through life. I then realized that I wanted to make a game. The main idea was to tell people how amazingly God can affect the life of an ordinary person who does not know what he wants. And I found out that Unreal Engine 4 introduced exactly the same way of programming as in Scratch. Isn't it a gift from heaven? Little by little, I learned Unreal Engine 4. I made a small shooter and something I don't know how to explain. And then I remembered all the stock of drawings and ideas that I had since school. I removed everything superfluous and left the fox, whom I've loved more than all of my other heroes, and there were many of them. I really liked the idea of the Chronicles of Narnia. This is a truly great story of man's acquaintance with God. So I wanted to do something similar, but slightly change the basic idea. The main idea of Max The Unifox will be to show how a person can change if he meets God. I won't say that Max's life will be 100% similar to my life, but about half will definitely be present there. I really hope that this game will change the lives of many people and show that God really exists and he's much closer than we think. What is your inspiration? Besides what I covered, what inspires me the most is good soulful music. I really love songs like the following. Now, what has been your biggest challenge so far in development? If you've been watching the devlog since the very first one, I think you've noticed how the game has changed around 23 Alpha. It was a turning point where I stopped liking the controls and character design, and first I gave up everything, but then I decided to redo everything from scratch. This was hard, and then there were still quite a few difficulties in life and the world in general. I quit development in general 3 times. And I don't promise that I will finish the project, but I will try to return to it with all my might, even if I want to quit again. And I think you can imagine what it's like to make a game alone. It usually takes 4 to 5 years to get a good game. And I want to make not just a good game, but a wonderful one. And yes, I perfectly understand my strengths and what I'm capable of. God is with me, so I don't worry too much. What details would you like your audience to know that it's not given in any social media posting so far? Each of the characters means a piece of the spiritual qualities of the main character, and these qualities are directly taken from the Bible. The fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, goodness, mercy, faith, meekness, and temperance. And the main character will mean unity. And just for this reason, the heroes are unicorns. This is essentially just a play on words. What do you want other people who are thinking about creating a game to know before they start? If you're not ready to devote your whole life to this business, do not even start. Also remember that good games are not made for money, and yes, art is priceless. And the last one, we are artists because God is. It's really cool to be able to see this process happening here. Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. I think, oh man, this just goes to show the work it takes to do an animation. Cool.
Вся сила зависит только от нашей души. Гляди. Проще простого. У нас было столько веселых приключений в этих снах. Вот бы кто-нибудь написал про нас историю.
И про нас не забудь.
Ребят.
It's very difficult to make animations. I've tried before. It's a process. Yeah, my first intro animation took me like 3 months just to be able to complete it. Here's another game by Derus called The Last Page. This is a pre-alpha. What the? Something ain't right here. At first I thought he was naked, but he's just covered in pages. Now you can see that he's fully covered platform here. Oh gee, what is going on? Nice. That's cool. That's cool though. As you can see, this is not his first project. This, I believe, is the shooter game that he was talking about. Man, it's really cool to see developers at work and being able to see some unreleased creations that they've made. Oh man. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Ooh, it's coming close here. I would just be... Oh! He did it! Get a little bit more health just in case. Wow! This is a comic that he's made called Force of Gravity. I really like this aesthetic where it's like... I don't know how to describe it. Dude's been through a lot, and he's very talented, so if you guys can, please support him. If you guys don't know, Derus also has an Instagram, so please take a look and follow some of his art if you'd like to support him. Again, the description will have all the links to Derus's Instagram, GameJolt page, VK, and also a place where you can donate to him to support this project. Thank you all for watching, and see you next time.